Hello friends, welcome back to Fix My Base. This is part 5 of Damien K's base, and thank you very much, Damien, for sending yours in. If you want me to take a look at yours and potentially fix it on a future episode, I'm going to link a form down in the description below that you can send it in, so check that out if you're interested. Alright, objectives. We have finished food. I am pretty confident that we are good to go on our food, so that one is done. The other ones are no duplicate death, which we have to finish in order to assure that. We need a good cooling, power, and oxygen. So we're probably going to address, I think, all 3 of them within the scope of this video. We're pretty close, and it's going to all come together here pretty quickly. So let's start working on that. Okay, like we were talking about last time, I think the plan that I want to get to is I really want to save these Slicksters. Just for funsies mostly. I normally wouldn't do this, but we do have a big cache of oil here because we were using that to absorb all the heat from our metal refinery. And because we don't really have great ventilation in our base right now, like there's just carbon dioxide and a whole bunch of garbage floating around, I'm going to start sending it down here and turning it into oil, and maybe even just directly into petroleum if we can get the hotter version of Slickster, since we have really hot crude oil. So the first thing I really need to do is start to move this down so we actually have room to work. I don't know how far I'm going to wind up moving this down. Is it like choke on my whole self? I don't know how far we're going to move this down, but at least a little bit. This will also enable us to start getting petroleum power up, which we have reserved some space for right here. Then once we get that, I'm going to start using my petroleum pretty aggressively just to keep this whole thing going and just kind of see how it goes. I don't use Slicksters very often, only because it takes a little bit of time to get them established, but because they're already up here, and because we're getting close, we might as well do something fun. I'll just do that here. So let me get this expanded and kind of drop this down, and we'll start filling in the middle of this. Okay, we're making a little bit of progress, but I just realized that we're going to need suits if we're going to have dupes coming in here to work, but I need more oxygen to be flowing through here. Our oxygen flow is pretty low, only because our cooling isn't great. So that's our big bottleneck for getting more oxygen out and dispersed. So here's the plan of what we're going to do. I'm just going to route it through our cooling, which was kind of the point of getting this all up. So any of this stuff I'm going to get rid of for right now. And I'll just set something up. This is just a little trick, by the way. I don't think I've ever talked about this. But if you have a tank that just has a bunch of stuff in it, it will not empty unless you have something on the other side, like pushing it through. So you can do that with just a simple bridge connected up to it. So yeah, kind of cool. I thought I would mention that. But now that we have our cooling pretty much up and going, it's down to like 16C, all we need to do is just run our gas pipes through this. Just kind of like snake it through. This might actually be enough. Let me see if I can do this a little bit better. Just run it like that. Let's see how much that gets us. But that's going to be the plan for cooling off our oxygen, and then we won't need to bottleneck it through this other cooling setup that we had down here. Instead, we can just shove it right into the rest of our base and into our other systems that are going to need it. And whenever you're using Atmo suits, you need a good flow of oxygen. So figured we might as well do that right now, and like is pretty typical in this game, you're going to get into pretty big holding patterns of stuff that needs to be done. So let me hook up the rest of this ventilation here really quickly. I'll probably have one that is dedicated to filling suits while also sending stuff into the base. The second will probably only send stuff into the base. So let me get that distributed really quick. Okay. Pretty much got our oxygen system all up and running, so to kind of follow the pipes here. When it gets produced, now it'll just directly go through our cooling setup. It'll enter here at about 60C, and it looks like it's leaving here at about 20. So looks like our cooling setup is doing its job, and now we won't be so reliant on our Weezeworts anymore. This is most of the reason why this like industrial strength cooling setup is needed. It's because these things work, they're just not strong enough for high volume things. So yeah, now that this is working, I'm going to get the rest of it all hooked up. I just prioritized the one to start get my duplicates to work in here because I'm really worried about not being able to retain this Slickster population. They're getting old, they're not really laying any eggs. I need to get them in here and tamed as soon as possible if we're going to keep this up, but non-zero chance we lose these, and this is all for nothing. But I guess we'll see. Alright, let's keep it going. Okay, let's hurry it up. We gotta move these Slicksters before they die. So I want to send some Slicksters into this area. Let me see how big this room is and how many it can hold. I only want to hold one, and then any excess Slicksters get produced, I'm just going to keep them up here so that if I get a huge influx of CO2 that we can deal with it. I don't remember how much, while these are tamed, that they can handle, but if the tame ones are going to be the ones that are prioritized to be fed first. Which means that I'm going to put them lower, the other ones are going to be up here, and note that there's going to be basically no limit for how many they can be, because this room is like the whole base. So, yeah, anyway. 60 tiles, let's see, that can hold, I think, 5? Yeah, not quite 6. Yeah, I think we're... No, it might be... I don't know. We'll find out. I think there's only a 4 alive anyway. So I'm going to prioritize these to be pretty high, and then the one that's already in there, I'm just going to say to auto-wrangle the extra, and specify it for something that obviously would not be in there. So I always just choose a Shine Nymph by default. Then one of my ranchers is just going to come in here, it'll call one of the Slicksters to this, and it should be able to run it all the way over here. And we'll get them groomed and get them all producing the way that we want to, so that the population doesn't totally die out. A couple of these are elderly, they're going to die in like one cycle, so yeah. This is rough, but we're going to do it. Alright, so yeah, that's just going to be the plan. I'll keep going with this, and as soon as we get them all in here and stabilized, then we'll see if this is actually doable. Oh, the other thing I was going to mention is we need to get a ventilation system set up, so I'm just going to do that now. We need a ventilation system to start pumping out all the different gases that we have, so like there's a bunch of natural gas in here too, and chlorine. I'm just going to send it to some different locations. I've done this a bunch of times in other videos, so I'm not going to go into it in like exhausting detail, but it's going to be like right around here. Any carbon dioxide that I get is just going to be sent straight into here to my Slicksters, and that should help get the ventilation better in this area, so I'll be working on that. Okay, ventilation system is pretty much done. You can see the levels of chlorine and carbon dioxide receding down, which is kind of what we wanted, so definitely a more breathable base, especially now that our throughput of oxygen is much higher. We're not as blocked up as we were before by the cooling, so yeah, it looks like we're good. The Slickster got moved. There's only one alive. That's going to be responsible for rebuilding our population effectively. But the problem is that it's laying long hair larva eggs because it's not warm enough. So if you look at the egg chances down here, you can see what would spark or what would kind of encourage them to do one thing or the other. So my plan, and this is kind of necessary, but not really. We're kind of just doing some sidetracky stuff while we're waiting for our natural gas to all get ready and our cooling to get ready. But I'm going to probably have the long hair larvae sitting up here. I'll create a small area for them. Actually, let me get rid of this. I'll create a small area for them just to be ranched in this small space. And hopefully they will start churning out a whole bunch of eggs that are going to be useful. If I can get it, I would rather get the molten Slickster eggs because they turn CO2 directly into petroleum, so that'd be great. But we need to heat this place up. The carbon dioxide that I get from the ventilation system is going to go down into this oil and get warmed up so that by the time it comes out, it's at 140 instead of like 34. So that'll hopefully help encourage better eggs to be created by this Slickster, but it's going to take a little bit to get there. So yeah, a little bit of a diversion, of course, but we're going to get our natural gas up here soon. That'll have all of the natural gas that's going to be funneled into one location. It's just on the fringes of the map, so it takes forever. And then our ventilation system is getting out of control. So now that it's more in control, we can focus on the things that we need to do here. And yeah, we'll just keep building this up, and then when the natural gas is ready, we'll come back. Okay, been running for just a little while, but I also think that we are done with oxygen. So, oh, sorry, let me do it more formally. There. Alright. So, oxygen, I think we're good. Cooling, we just need to distribute really quickly, but we also need to make sure it can cool our power. As far as the natural gas goes, we do have at least a decent flow coming in here, because we are harvesting from this geyser, so we might as well just go ahead and get it started. So what I have here is just a setup that is going to take in a bunch of natural gas. I have these made out of steel. This is probably overkill. You could just, like, send it into the room, but this is going to help us store more and also not spend any extra power moving it around. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to set up a bunch of pipes for all of these tanks to go out. And if they are ever out, we will have another pump in here that is going to allow everything to go through. So just going to merge the output of all these pipes like that. Well, as soon as the game loads. Like this. Then I'm going to run through the pump. The pump I'm only going to let pump out if it's above 100 grams. There's barely anything in here right now. But, or sorry, 1,000. But, oh, we're getting some polluted oxygen in here. That's not good. Oh, it's because there's some slime. Ooh, jeez, come on. Alright, well, whatever. We might damage our natural gas generators a little bit. We'll just repair them. Won't be that big of a deal. So, if we get this, we're just going to send it down into our generators. And then at our generators, we'll just kind of distribute it like this. This all seems pretty obvious, but the output is definitely going to be carbon dioxide, and I'm just going to route it down to my ventilation system so that it eventually goes in here and is used up by my Slicksters. Same thing goes for the petroleum generator, but I don't think I'm going to wait until we have petroleum generators up before I call the power done. But I think we're pretty close. I mean, we have a pretty heavy burden on our power system right now. Oh, I guess we're probably done with this. Yeah, we don't really need any more water. No, I only want it for this. Yoink. There. So, cooling is going to be pretty much ready. I'll run a pipe up here in just a little bit. I'll get the rest of this natural gas all built out. I'll send the carbon dioxide down. Then once I think we get our natural gas all flowing and get the rest of them hooked up, I'm going to call that one finished as well. So, we're getting pretty close to finishing everything. Our Slickster setup is coming along, I guess. We've got a few of them that will hopefully lay some eggs that are more useful for us. Egg chances are really not changing that much, even though I'm out of the range of making long hair larva eggs. I don't really understand that. But, oh well, I guess we'll get there. And we're kind of just adding some sprinkles on top at this point, but almost done. So, we'll get there soon. Okay, almost done, and Liam just decides to fall asleep right near his death, so let's make sure we can save him, otherwise this whole run is just wasted. So, Liam, I think, actually it's going to be faster if we just get these two. Just gotta have one of these duplicants mess this up. Actually, this is an emergency. Let me see if I can change his schedule to wake him up. Liam, where are you? Yep. Okay, you're getting down to shift 4. Abe, you gotta move up because someone's a dummy and fell asleep down in carbon dioxide. Alright, now you need to wake up and move, and then get out of there. Oh. Well, I guess he just found a random place to go. Okay. He's safe. Okay, we finally made it. This natural gas setup took forever to get together because everything was so far away. Whoops. Don't want to pump that out yet. Yeah, so we've got this good to go. I put some extra pumps in here just whenever the petroleum generators turn on, they will produce an unmanageable amount of CO2, so those will be to pump that out. Got a pump for getting the carbon dioxide out of this room, which will definitely help. Oh, they can't reach that. Get this fixed. Which will definitely help keep this room more clear if my duplicants have to come in here for any reason. They don't have to hold their breath. And I want the carbon dioxide now so that I can turn it into oil or petroleum or whatever. So, yeah, now that that's running, I think this is more than enough to call this sustainable, so done. And finally, we need to get our cooling to a good point. Let's prove out that this can cool this whole area. So I'm going to basically hook something up from one of these tanks, which I need to start deconstructing some of this stuff. I will in just a bit, but the idea here is I'm going to just run a pipe that's going to go from one of these tanks. It's going to snake through this room, and then just return back to here to be recooled. So that ought to hold it down for all the cooling here, and if I need to split them up, there's more than enough extra tanks in here to do that with. So let me do that really quick, and then I think we'll close it out. So be right back. Okay, we did it. I think that's pretty much it. So if you take a look at our cooling that's running in here, we're keeping this room a nice cool temperature. And that should only get colder as it starts to circulate a little bit more. So yeah, this room is nice and cold. Anything else that needs cooling, we can definitely run out from these tanks, and that should be it. So I'm just going to go ahead and say that cooling is done. Which also means that since we have completed everything, our food, oxygen, power, and cooling are all good to go. That means we completed the challenge and no duplicates died, so done. Alright, well, thanks for watching. That was fun. Definitely a different feel of a series. Let me know what you thought about it. But that's not the last video in this series, because I'm going to do like a recap of before and after. So if you want to see what the base looked like versus what it looks like now, I'm going to do a lot of like side-by-side comparisons and have some stats there. So if you want to join me with that, just click on the next video and I'll see you there in just a second.